Hello everyone, this is Mike from DynamicPoint. For today's session, we're going to go over how to create a report using Excel, specifically with the tool PowerQuery, and we're going to build that report using the data that resides within our expense management application. So here I'm within SharePoint. If I go to our expense application, you're going to see I have several reports here in the system, and we're going to do a report across all the users. So these are just specific to a given user, but we're going to do reports across all users. So in order to create this report, we're going to start off in Excel. I'm going to go ahead and open up a blank workbook. And you can see at the top here, I have a Power Query tab. This is actually included with the newer versions of Excel. With the older versions, it's free. You just have to download it and install it. And we are going to do a Power Query report using data that resides within a SharePoint list. So the first thing you see it ask me is the URL for my list. So I still have SharePoint open. So let's go ahead and grab the URL for that list. We'll just do a quick copy, paste it in that URL. And when this opens, you see it's going to bring open all of the lists that exist in this site. So today we're just interested in doing a very basic report. We're just actually going to pick the expense report list. And then it's going to show us a preview here of all the data that resides in that list. And then we're just going to choose to edit it. So after we edit it, you see it's brought in all of the data for that list, which is quite a bit. We're actually interested in just a fraction of that. We're just going to look at expense reports on the totals over time, so we don't need too many specifics. So let's go ahead and pick a few columns here. We'll pick the credit card total. That represents those items on the expense report that were incurred on a credit card. And the expense total is those that were incurred using out-of-pocket methods, either a personal credit card or cash. And then we'll pick the status. Maybe we're not interested in some of the reports that either rejected or pending review. So we'll include that so we could filter those, as well as the created date. Now, if I right-click this, it's going to give me an option here to remove other columns. That basically just means keep the columns that I've selected. So upon clicking that, you see it's greatly simplified my view. Now I only have a handful of columns here. It's really simplified the data. And the other thing I noticed about the created showing a date and timestamp. I'm really only interested in the date. So I'm going to do a quick change the type here to just date as opposed to date time. So that's it, pretty small sample of data, but it'll work for our illustration today. And then I'm going to go ahead and close and load that, which is going to take my query out of the editor view and put it back in Excel. So now I have the list. It's actually pulling this live from the SharePoint list. So this is not a dump of data, just to clarify. And you see my option here. I have one of the things I could do is summarize this with a pivot table. So let's go ahead and click that. We'll put that on a new tab. And let's just go ahead and pick the credit card as well as out of pocket. And then the created, and then we want to filter by the status because we're only interested in certain statuses. So there you can see my sample of my reports, the various dates they're created on. Obviously, if I have a large amount of data here, I don't want to see something created on every day. I probably want to group it by something by month or something like that. So let's go ahead and group that. We'll do month. There you go. So now I have July, August, and September, and then the total of the credit card, and then the total of the out-of-pocket expense amount. So that I could leave it there just in a pivot chart. A pivot table. I could also add a chart to it if I want it to be more graphical. So we'll go ahead and click pivot chart. And that column looks pretty good. That looks like what we're trying to get at. So we'll go ahead and include that. If I zoom in on it a little bit here, you can see it's showing the total of my credit card and out of pocket by month. And we did have this status field included. Maybe we're not interested in those that are still pending review, but those are approved. So we're going to go ahead and select approved. Click OK here. You can see it's filtered the graph for us as well as the pivot chart. So now I am showing my expenses over time by credit card and out of pocket by month. That was it today. Like I said, pretty basic report. On further sessions, we'll get more into details on combining data that exists in different lists so we could pull them into a single combined report. Thanks and have a great day.